Hello, I'm Odin, and this week is my birthday week. So I'm gonna make an Odin prop. It's Odin's spear Gungnir, as seen in the Marvel movies. I found some great pictures of a stunt spear from the movie Thor. The prop auction site had detailed pictures of the spear head and gave measurements of exactly how big Gungnir is. This is full size. It kind of looks like a sword, but all right. I think that's secondary. I'm gonna do this first. A thin-walled 3/4 inch PVC pipe is nearly perfect for the shaft of the spear. 598, 656. That's still not very much. I can get both pieces out of this? No. Really? No. 6. Every time I do this, it seems like it's too short. Oh, did I not update these? I don't know if I updated those. One of the things I noticed when I first started working on the spear is that the dimensions that I was given, while I'm sure are correct from the prop store, I wasn't getting it to work right with my printouts. So it took 3 or 4 tries to get where I'm at. So these are actually wrong numbers. And what I need to do is, 715, 658, and 721. That's right, not this, not this. That's too short. Alrighty. I still think that's too short. I hope it is, because this doesn't seem like it's long enough. Wow, no, this is 137, almost exactly. Almost exactly. Oh, that's well over my head. All right, guess that's fine. There is very little extra on this pipe. I cut it in half where I want it to separate, and I still have a couple of extra millimeters on either side. And to make sure that each end is square, because my saw cut was not. Yeah, that's about thirds, okay. With the bottom half being the biggest, so this is the bottom. All right, this is the middle. So I just put a lot of effort to take a pipe, to cut it in half to make sure it was clean, that I could put it back together again. That probably doesn't make sense, but it does. What I want to do is make sure that this breaks apart so I can put it into a car or the cab of my truck or wherever. So my plan is to take these painter's extension poles, which easily just screw together, and use these as the connectors because they just barely fit inside the pipe. So I'm going to cut these guys in half. And I only need the 2 because I need this connection, I need the connection for the spearhead. So I'm going to have a spare connection for later, which is kind of cool. I'm going to keep this as a spare for another project because I don't need it here. I only need these 3 pieces. And I got the spearhead, which is a short one. So I need to put that in until it is flush. I'll need to take the bottom and put it in. It is no, it still fits just fine. And then I'll have to, I know the metal piece fits, I tried earlier. Let's make sure I put it together the right way. That's a very satisfying noise. Let's do that the right way. This time I fit the metal band inside the PVC pipe. I don't want to see the connectors when it's all put together. Because the wooden parts just slip inside the pipe, I'm going to use small tacks to hold them in place. And I also want a small drill bit, a very small drill bit, just to make pilot holes in the PVC. That'll help the tacks get started in the plastic pipe. I put in quite a few of them, and if I had planned ahead, I would have made sure that they were all equally spaced. So I have no doubts that that's in there securely. I put the other end of the extension pole in place. This one needed a little more convincing to get in there. Congratulations, Odin, you made a pool cue. How exciting is that? It's not at all. Today at Odin Makes, I'm gonna make a pool cue. I wrap both PVC pipes with paper and blue tape because my current mad scientist plan is to fill each pipe with expanding foam. PVC pipe is flexible, and with the weight of the spearhead, the pole could be really wobbly. By mixing some urethane foam and filling the PVC pipe, it'll make the pipe solid and greatly reduce any wobble. Okay. That's actually a lot. What I'm gonna need to do is cap that. And now that I want to cap it after the fact is a bad plan. I should have grabbed something to cap it with beforehand. I could just use the back end of this. No, that's the part I want. There it goes. Now it's exploding. Now it'll hit me in the eye. Now I'm out of time. At this point, I have no choice but just to hold the plug, keeping the expanding foam inside the PVC pipe. So what I'm doing is restricting the area that the foam has to expand. That'll just make it denser, right? It's going to expand as much as it wants to, but it has nowhere else to expand to, so it'll just be put under more pressure, which is fine. That's what I want. The whole point is to make it so the spear doesn't have any wobble. A few minutes later, my mind starts to wander. Wow, I didn't think I had, that was awesome. It takes about 6 minutes for the foam to stop expanding. Kind of wish I could turn the cameras off. I set the pipe aside to finish doing its thing, and I can start on the middle section. Because it's the middle section, it will need painter pole extensions on both ends. After I pour in all the foam, I quickly insert the last piece and hammer a few tacks in place. The foam will force the air out from around the wood, but hopefully the foam will not squirt out. Pretty sure it's not going to leak out this side. It's coming out from around the nail. That's great. Well, no, it's not, but yeah, that's great. It's great because it's interesting what's happening. I just don't want it to get worse. Oh, look at that. It's coming out from, oh, that's awesome. You probably can't see this, but the foam is forcing its way out in between the wood and the metal. That's really cool. Don't touch with your fingers. A few hours later, and the foam is all set up. Okay, so I got some pretty good leak coming out of the top here when I let some pressure go off of my plug. That's okay. It's actually kind of neat in a way. I don't know. I don't have any real use for that. And on the other one, where I had nailed the bits of wood into the end, extremely little leaked out around the one end or around the other receiving end. So I'm actually very pleased with that, which makes sense how hard it was to get the pieces to go in. I quickly clean up the excess dried foam, and they both fit together correctly. So there's very little detail on the actual pole portion of the spear, which is kind of nice. It seems to have 9 sets of rings up the base. I assume that represents the 9 realms. And then at the top, there's another 3 rings that are just towards the end of the spear. I'm not quite sure if those represent anything. To do that, I think I'm gonna try to use my lathe. Because like, how would I do this? I started to think about that last night. How would I do this if I didn't have the lathe? I would probably make a little guide piece I could slide up and down the pole and just do it with a Dremel, and it would be messy. I measure out where I want the ring lines to go and mark each one. Once the pipe is put in the lathe, I can still see the dots as it spins, so I go ahead and draw the rings with a pencil too. Then I use a really small modeling chisel that's made for making panel lines in plastic, and I use that to make my panel lines in this plastic. The PVC pipe is probably too flexible to actually use in a lathe, so I have to hold it steady in the middle just to get a clean line. Chances are this is not the safe way to do this, so you probably should not try this at home. All right, so now that we got the main pole of the spear done, I can make the head. So the head is not little, it's as long as one section of the actual pole, which is great. So I'm gonna take this and cut it out of thick centra. The spearhead looks like it's made in layers, so I'll build mine the same way. The spear tip and sides will each be cut from a 1/4 inch centra plastic. I can use my bandsaw to easily cut out all the shapes. This foam PVC board cuts very easily. The two sides will fit together and the spear tip will nest between them. For the layer that fits over the seams, I tape the printout back together and cut 2 layers from some 1/8 inch centra plastic. A thin layer will be glued to either side of the thicker stuff, and that is the basic shape for the spearhead. Next, I want to sharpen up the edges. I put a pencil on top of some of the thin stuff, and this will allow me to get a pretty good center line down the sides of the thick stuff. That way, I know where to sand down to with a small belt sander. Centra is pretty soft, and this sanding happens really quickly. I take the guides off the sander, and that made it easier to get a sharp looking edge on all the pieces. I wanted to get the edges sharp between the blades, and that's why the spearhead was split up into smaller sections. That way it would fit on the sander. The thinner layers are also sanded around the sides because I don't want just flat cut out edges. There are places the sander won't fit, so I can use a grinding bit to get them sanded down. Then there is more sanding. I have some fine grit sandpaper here. All I really want to do is get the chatter lines from both sanding tools to go away. I just want clean edges, please. I cut the pattern in half and then use it as a guide to draw the engraving lines that are on all of the pieces. Each part has engraving lines, some are on both sides. Just a little bit of engraving, not a lot. Because centra is a soft plastic, the engraving is easy to do as well. Another rounded grinding bit makes quick work of the lines. The hard part is keeping the lines straight, or even just following my pencil marks, because the rotation of the bit makes it want to wander off course. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. On the original Gungnir prop, these lines looked handmade. I still try to keep my lines as clean as I can get them. I carefully use a wire brush to clean out the worst parts of the engraving lines and finish with a little bit of sanding. So I got my parts, everything's cut out, they're engraved, nothing's glued yet, but what I need to do is figure out a way to get the head of the spear to attach to the pole of the spear. Now, if you remember, the pole is based off of a painter's extension pole, which means the end will fit into a paint roller. So I've got a very small, simple, cheap paint roller handle, and what I want to do is cut the metal off and modify the handle to fit in the base of this, which should work out pretty well. A ceramic cutoff wheel will get through the metal easily, and then with my bandsaw and my belt sander, I reduce the paint roller handle to the minimum that I need for the spear. To hide the rest of the roller handle, I heat up a piece of 1-inch PVC pipe, and when it's soft enough, I force it over the roller handle. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted. After the plastic cools, I sand 2 sides flat, and I cut a section out of the middle of the spearhead so everything can fit. I'm ready to glue everything together, so I start by gluing the thin sides onto the main blade piece, and I make sure the ends line up. I glue the 2 side blades together, making sure that they're flat, and then I stick a piece of tape over the spot where the roller handle will go, and then stick that handle in place. I set the blades on some 1-2-3 blocks and set some scrap centra under the handle to keep everything level. I mix up some 5-minute epoxy and fill the void between the metal rod and the plastic blades. I let the epoxy ooze and flow and settle around the roller handle and keep adding more until the whole area is full. After an hour, I sand some of the excess off the top and peel the tape off of the bottom. And I can see that the epoxy did fill all the voids. Perfect. I test fit the pieces. There's a slight bulge where the roller handle is, but that's okay. Sweet. I slather the insides of the thin plastic with PVC glue. Now this stuff starts to set up very quickly. I have to hurry and get the side blade layer slipped in place while the glue will still work. That's kind of it. That's kind of right there. Oh. Wow. I use spring clamps to hold the layers together and squeeze the parts over the roller handle. I make sure the sides are even and the spearhead is flat. I add a tiny trim piece to fill the last void between the PVC pipe and the spearhead, and I put one on both sides. After an hour, I remove the clamps and sand the excess glue off the sides. At last, I can attach the spearhead to the spear, and construction is complete. Yeah, there we go. Snugs all the way up. That's what I wanted, no gap. All right, it's 7 feet tall like it's supposed to be. It's out of frame, I'm sure. There we go. Oh, that's kind of it. It's kind of cool. So I'm going to spray it with a clear coat first as like a primer, right? I'm going to use just a gloss coat, and then I'll spray paint with some gold. Most of the materials I used, I already had on hand in my shop. I'll put a list in the description. This is one of those things that's been requested since I started doing anything on the internet. Everyone's, make Odin's spears! Like, all right, I finally did. And you know what? I'm really happy with it. In fact, this is probably gonna go up in my edit room where I sit all the time. So that's where this guy is gonna go on display. I'm really very happy with how this turned out, and it inspires me to, I think I'm gonna continue to do the rest of the armor. I like the Thor the Dark World version of the Odin armor, and I'm thinking about doing that. Been thinking about doing that for a little while, so it's not a huge thing. Don't get excited. I'm not going to start up a huge video series next week with me making the Odin armor. It's going to happen in a little while. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out, with how it looks, how easy it was to work with foamed PVC, which I knew it would be, but making a blade out of it like this, I hadn't done that before. And I know that there's going to be lots of different ways that you could make Odin's spear Gungnir, but this is how Odin makes. Probably should just make it go together the way I know it got cut. Yeah, like that's not right. Not right. So I made it the right height. The weirdest thing is trying to keep it all to fit within frame. I mean, here it is. You can't see the top because I run out of camera. Yeah. I want to thank Jasper, Ignisia, BlackheartHound, and all of my Patreon supporters. My Patreon support is the #1 thing that makes this show possible. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Have an idea for something for me to make? Please leave a comment below. And if you make any of these projects, you can send me a picture.